Dear Lord, I just ask that you put your hand on us right now, Lord. I just pray that you give us open hearts, open ears, and open minds to take in everything that we all have to say, Lord. And I pray that you just walk with us and you take this mountain that feels so high and so daunting to climb, and that you just make it a valley. You make it a valley that we can walk through and bring openness and light at the end of it, because you are light, Lord, and you bring that into our life. And I just look forward to the things that this is going to do in our life and do in my dad and I's relationship. And I thank Rob for being a catalyst for that. And I just pray that you walk with us through this time. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Let's go to work.
You sit on the toilet, don't you?
Not all the
Use
time.
that as your meditation.
Not my wife, not your wife, nor anybody listening to this podcast has eaten a shit sandwich we didn't have a hand in making.
Welcome to Recovery Unfiltered. I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic.
I am Rob. I am also an alcoholic. We are not professionals. There are no letters after our names. We know very little. However, you will hear the word God and a four-letter word in the same sentence. You will also be offended. So if you are easily offended, just pass us by. This podcast is not for you.
Our opinions are just that. If you don't agree with what we're saying, that's okay. We're going to love you anyways.
I am so sick of that other one.
So sit back, grab a beverage of your...
What?
Well,
sick of it.
We just, and I agree, that's what I was getting to. Mm-hmm. We just had a beautiful, heartfelt prayer.
I know.
Followed by sitting on a toilet with shit sandwiches. We got to do something. After the 1 year, we got to come up with something.
We're getting close to the 1 year. We're doing 51 today. Yeah. And I'm not going to promise, but I do want another one before we start before we start year number 2. I promise.
We'll do something.
We may just not do anything, just go straight to talking.
No, you need something.
Hey, that voice is my girl.
You got to have a hook. You got to have kind of a hook.
I know. We'll get something. I'll start walking through some stuff. Yeah. But anyways, hey, so this morning I pulled into the Saturday morning meeting, and there wasn't one car in the entire parking lot. And I'm like, shit, I had to look at my phone. It is Saturday, right? I didn't miss anything. And then I texted everybody, it's Freedom Weekend. Mm-hmm. But that's all right. You know what? I got to see Mikey this morning. I hadn't seen Mikey in about a month, so it was great to see him. There was only 6 of us in there for that.
That's a perfect meeting.
It was good. Yeah. It was great. You know what? And I said this in the meeting today. I don't get to a lot of meetings. I do 2 very important meetings, my Saturday morning and Monday, right? Those are my important meetings. We don't do the Serenity Prayer in our Monday night meeting. That's not an AA meeting. That's just a group of guys hanging out together. We just pray in and we pray out. It is just a group of guys. I hadn't heard the Serenity Prayer in 3 weeks. I didn't realize that. And literally, when those 6 guys started to say it, I just stopped and listened. It's just sometimes you forget the power of that Serenity Prayer.
We take for granted the little things that you don't even realize you miss.
No. And it's just, I had not been in that meeting for 3 weeks, and it stopped me. But it was good. Anyways, we are on episode 52. Sorry. 51. Episode 51. Yes, sorry.
Jesus.
I'm a little shaky right now. This is, well, my daughter number 1 is here today.
Oh, number 1.
We had daughter number 2 last week. We got daughter number 1. Now, let me tell you how this girl started in this world.
Oh, we've heard this, but refresh us.
This girl started in this world on July 17th, 1992. I got that right, huh? Got 3 pounds, 2 ounces. She lived in an incubator for almost 2.5 weeks till she got big enough to where her and her mom, we can hold her and take her out. 3 months old, she got diagnosed with a tumor behind her eyeball.
Right.
This girl's been fighting her entire life from the day she came out. And she is still a fighter. And God, I love you. Anyways, so we're going to walk through this, and I'm probably going to mute my mic just like I did last week. I'm going to let Rob do this. I'm going to answer when I need to and talk when I need to if I can. Remember, Rob and I talked a little bit before. We made a little live Instagram before this, and these are
on Instagram.
Oh, yes, you are, Rob. You've been on Instagram more than you know, brother.
Shit.
You can't copyright that ugly face either.
Hey, it's one of a kind, buddy. I worked hard to get it.
I know. So yeah, we're gonna walk through this, and just like last week, and we are doing this for a couple reasons. We've talked about it since the very beginning that it's going to be great to have my daughters and our wives and this and that. We've talked about it, and it just hasn't happened. And as we finished up 49, I said, you know what? 50, 51, and 52 needs to be the family, right? Let's do the family afterwards. And that's, it's a chapter in the book. And it is definitely something that not only is it healing for me and my daughters and my wife, because honestly, we're digging into some stuff we've never talked about. I mean,
or stuff we don't even remember.
Yes. And McKenna stepped on some stuff last week that honestly came from left field and I didn't see it coming. And it got me. And I'm sure it's going to happen again today.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's going to happen again when Katie comes on here. But
the book says more will be revealed.
More will be revealed. And I mean, I was 6 months along before I remembered some other stuff, and 2 years along before I remembered some other stuff. So it happens, right? We tend to block some stuff, and we tend to not want to forget, but we tend to leave stuff out.
Oh, shit. Well, I packed a lot of shit away I wanted to forget.
Right.
It didn't get brought up till my second set of steps.
Right. So, I mean, it is what it is. So, like I said, we're going to work this through and see what happens. Miranda?
Hi.
Hi, my baby. I'm gonna let you go, Rob.
Well, we're going to start about just the way we did with the McKenna.
You go.
Talk to me childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, it just relationship, family, how you grew, because you are 5 years older, 5.5.
Almost 6. So I'm
5 years older than months.
Yeah, 5 years, 11 months older than McKenna.
And that's a lifetime, really. That's a whole different set of friends. You're out of high school by that time, so
For sure. So McKenna, was, I was in kindergarten when my parents had McKenna. I remember my mom had a scheduled C-section. My dad had purple scrubs on. He came out and got me and took me in there to see her, and I instantly fell in love with her, and I was killing it as an only child.
I bet.
All the good stuff in life, and then I had this little bundle, and goodness, I did not know what I was into with that girl. She is hellfire and brimstone, but
True
God,
fact.
she loves big. She loves so big. And I'm a mother now myself. I have 3 little ones.
My
Mm-hmm.
babies.
Yeah, my middle daughter, who is 6, is...
So did you get one of you, or did you get a McKenna?
I got McKenna. I got McKenna Jr. My middle daughter, Claire, she's 6, about to be 7 in August, and she, in every facet, reminds me so much of McKenna. She just has that fire, and she...
So you know how to raise her. You know how to navigate her.
You know what?
Or do you?
She has all the things that I think I ever wish I could have been at that age and growing up. And I just pray that no one ever dims that in her, because she is such a light. She is such a light. She's such a fire. And I just know she's going to do amazing things. And just like Kenna, McKenna's killing it in life. She's doing amazing stuff. So I'm very blessed to have her. I can't imagine going through this life without her. And having, my parents, it was their plan for me to be an only child. My mom's delivery with me was very traumatic. My parents had a friend that was an only child, and he lost both of his parents in an accident, and they never wanted me to be alone, so they gave me McKenna, and it was probably the best gift they could have ever given me. So
Well, I didn't hear that. I never heard that part. Never heard that part. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've talked about that in a meeting that we had in Maranda, and we weren't, because we were so scared after Maranda was born that we went through some shit, till about 5 or 6 months, not knowing. It was scary.
Yeah.
So me and Katie were like, nope, we ain't doing this shit again. But like Miranda said, about year 4.5, we were like, you know what? This happened to this couple. We don't want to leave Miranda alone, if something happened. So she went ahead and let me go ahead and put a seat in her, and there we went.
Jesus Christ.
Well, that's how it happens. I'm sure you know by now.
I don't know how it happens. It just happened 3 times, and it's a miracle.
Sorry, Katie.
Know.
I just that one came out, but anyways, yeah. So
Eric slips on a bar of soap and she's pregnant.
He looks at me, I swear, and I get pregnant. I had to get my tubes tied. I was like, I just know it'll happen again.
that Hispanic love, bud. Anyways.
Okay, so now.
Yeah, so growing up, my dad, we were super, super involved with the church. My dad was a deacon at the church. He ran Bible study. Our front door was always open for people coming in and out of it that needed help or just needed dinner or needed refuge. And, our home always felt so light and bright. And we went to church every Sunday. We were involved in a very small church. We were very intertwined with the pastor's life as well. And, that was a huge foundation for me growing up. That really changed probably, I was about 10 years old when our pastor left the church. And not that we fell away, but we were definitely like not as involved.
You shared that with us too.
Yeah, that's when, once again, that's where I was putting my faith in him and not in God, right? I was following,
Yeah, we were following pastor.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize the difference, right? Because he spoke the words so well. Yeah. That's all I wanted it from him. And I couldn't go to another. I still have a hard time listening to other pastors. I do. But anyways, it was hard.
And he was amazing. I mean, he was very much like a father figure, like a grandfather figure. I mean, if we missed a Sunday of church, it was guaranteed by 1:00 he was knocking on the door and was like, "Hey, where are you guys at? Is everything okay?" We're like, "We're so sorry, Pastor. We were just sleeping in this morning."
Yeah.
But
playing hooky, leave me alone.
Right.
Yeah. I just remember our home being an open door, like people coming for dinner. My dad was driving truck at that time still too, and he was working in dispatch. And a good Sunday for me was when my dad had to go pull a load, and he would be like, "Hey, you want to go?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." And we'd, he was still Big Lair at that time, and we'd get in the truck and we'd go, and I'd ride around with him dropping off loads and
talking on the CB.
Oh my gosh, the CB was so cool. I'll never forget. I've never seen my dad more proud than when I ate my first double bacon cheeseburger from Jack in the Box. Oh my gosh, he had told everybody about it for like days. She just ate a whole double bacon cheeseburger. I was like, "Oh yes, I did. Show my star."
It's funny. She says that we picked it up at the Patterson, Jack in the Box, leaving. I dropped off a load in San Antonio, headed back to Stockton Rack to get another load, and we stopped at Patterson. I always stopped at that one. Had great truck parking. So, yep, I remember that.
So, yeah, but that was, and then, when we kind of fell away from the church a little bit.
That's about when you were 10, you said?
Yeah, I was about 10, and, life just kept moving. We kept moving, and my dad had his weight loss surgery. Actually, to backtrack a little bit, no, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was 2000.
We moved out of the house that I was raised in, really. We sold that house and we lived with my grandparents for a little bit before we bought another house. Right after my dad had his gastric bypass.
Which was in 2007.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was a pretty big transition time for me. I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was.
Any sports? Like McKenna did basketball.
I cheered. Yeah.
Mom with you would cheer.
All the way through. Yeah. I cheered from about first grade all the way up to senior year.
What high school?
We went to Waterford. Yeah. So we went to Waterford High School, went to Hickman Elementary. My dad was very, very involved. He was, very much.
I was coaching at the high school.
Yeah, and he was coaching at the high school. That was like a normal day for us. He would pick us up from school. We would go to football practice with him. My sister and I would be on the sidelines doing cartwheels down the sideline. That was normal for us. And when, we moved into that house, which is funny enough because my husband and I, our first house that we bought is exactly across the street from the house that we lost.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Out there?
No, over in town. That's our second house that we live in now.
Okay.
Our rental property now is across the street from the house. And when we were going to buy it, my parents were like, "Please don't buy that house. Please don't buy that house," because they were just so tainted by that road.
Bad memories.
Yeah.
Is that odd or is that God?
What's that?
Is that odd or God?
Oh, it was God for
Yeah.
sure. That was a lot of trauma that honestly I'd never even. Once again, Miranda brought some stuff up.
Yeah, well, I was looking
Yeah.
at it. I haven't heard about this yet.
Yeah, it was some trauma.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely like learning things for us, losing the house for Kenna and I. That was like, Kenna and I think I was raised on Heather, which was our first street that we sold and lived with my grandparents. And McKenna feels like she was raised in Goldmine. I was raised in Heather, but all my friends lived on Goldmine. So when I was a freshman in high school, all of my friends lived in that area. That was the house that I was living in when I met my husband. He would roll up in his dad's little beat down work truck and would show up in front of the house. And my dad would be like, Eric, what are you doing? It's the middle of the night. Get out of here. Like, so,
With his hat on backwards.
With his hat on backwards, his curly hair.
And no driver's license.
No, he was like 14 or 15 at the time. So
That's why
killing it. Yeah.
Get away with that shit.
I know. He wasn't going very far. But, that house held so much memory for Kenna and I that
Your friends.
our friends, and, it was a lot of turmoil. We could feel it. Kenna and I could feel it. And, it was sad for all of us. But I think starting from there and moving forward, I just think it was a lot of spiritual warfare that our family was really going through. And that was just like the kickoff of it. And, as the years went on and, you start working on things and you go from a child to a teenager, those are really confusing times. And, I lacked a lot of self-confidence. And I was just always trying to find that in other parts of my life. And, Eric and I, we got together when we were juniors in high school, and I very much was trying to find my confidence in him. And, we found each other at a very young age, and we loved really big for really young people. And with that, you grow, and I am very much my dad. I wear my emotions on my sleeve.
True fact.
But you and McKenna you're both like your dad, but in different ways.
Yes.
You get different
She
parts
got
of
my
that.
heart.
Yes.
She got my heart, and she got her mama's looks. Trust me.
Well, they're both beautiful. I'm glad they got their mother's looks.
You ain't lying.
Yeah. So,
But she also got your let's go, get down, nose to the grindstone. Let's don't wait around.
McKenna got the same. Both my daughters got, me and Katie are both, the work ethic comes from both of us, because these two work their asses off. Both of them. They're fucking amazing is what they are. Katie and I has never missed a day of work and never been unemployed. Thank you, Lord. Right. So these girls have learned from the very beginning, work comes first no matter what. And you ain't handed a fucking thing in life. If you're going to get it, you better go earn it. So anyways.
Yeah. So high school, Eric and I were together. The more so end of our junior year going into senior year.
And what year did you graduate?
We graduated in 2010. Our senior year was the only year that my dad did not coach football high school. It was the only year. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because remember that one night that Eric brought all the guys over here to have you do film with them? But that was the only year that my dad didn't coach. So, like I said, I'm very much an emotional person. I wear my heart on my sleeve, very much so. And I have to talk about things to get past them and to work through it.
That's him.
It's 1,000% me.
That's him.
Yeah. If I'm not talking about it, there's something.
I'm always
a lot
talking to myself.
bigger.
But then I do this too, unfortunately, so I do this.
Yeah, I say nobody's got to punish me because nobody punishes me harder than
You
myself.
ain't lying there.
That's right.
That is 100% her daddy.
Yeah, we are harder on ourselves than anybody, which
For
is
sure.
ridiculous, but we do it.
For sure. So, when you have a love that big at that young of an age, you're going to go through it, and you grow together and you grow apart. And I like to say Eric and I had 3 stages of our relationship. We had our high school stage, our party stage, and then the stage that we're in now. So my parents obviously had to watch all of that. So the highs, the lows, the beautiful, the ugly. And
here we are with what would have number 3 on the picture.
Oh,
but
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I stole that out of their house.
But when you do survive that, as you have, the strength that comes from that,
For sure.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Whether that's what family's for.
Yeah.
There's gonna be times you're at each other's throat. It just is, and that.
For sure. And so in the middle of all that, and life was just moving,
So you're 31 or 2?
I'm 32. I'm about to be 33 in July.
Oh, 33.
Yeah, Lord help me. So yeah, and I would say growing up, in that period of time, just keep time frame moving.
What did you think of his drinking? You're going through high school.
I'm going to back up just a minute, because she brought up a point that really, honestly, I'd kind of forgotten about the timeline on. My first drink was after my gastric bypass.
With the neighbor.
With the neighbor that was in Gold Mine, was in 2007, basically across the street, almost 6 months after
Your surgery?
after my surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, that's more, there's more to the story than just, I'm not going into it, but it's just that timeline. And I've said this before, that's when I felt like my drinking really got started, and Miranda nailed it without even me talking.
We've talked about the
it.
gastric bypass stuff before.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. So, timeline wise, his drinking, it's super interesting to me listening to like McKenna's episode, and just, I think I forget our age difference and how aware we are of those things in between, because, you know, McKenna recognizes my dad's drinking really not getting bad until like 2020. And I track it back to like 2014. I think really what set off truly some really unfortunate events in our family was our dog drowning in the backyard in the pool. It was after a football game. Our dog, my dad's dog, it was, you know, it was his buddy.
Is this the dachshund?
Yeah. My dad's dog broke his back, and he had, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how much money they had spent to get this dog fixed. Oh my goodness. He was an amazing dog though. And so he was in wheels. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty normal practice for the coaches to come over here after a game. They would sit in the backyard and they would drink, and they would, until they all got tired, and then they would go home. Well, Rowdy had only been home for maybe about a month, and he was in wheels. And because his back was broken, his back legs didn't work anymore. And my dad and them, they came inside, and Rowdy had been outside with my dad. And my dad came in and walked the coaches out outside, and he came back inside, and he's like, "Where's Rowdy?" And we were like, "What?" And I went running out the back door, and Rowdy was at the bottom of the pool in the wheels, and because the wheels didn't float, and the wheels just drug him down. And it was just havoc ensued after that. My dad dove in the pool. He had his phone in his pocket. They pulled the dog out of the pool. I was doing CPR on the dog. I was doing everything I can to save this dog, and it was just pandemonium around me.
How old were you?
That was 2014, so I was 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So
in nursing school, or?
Yeah, I was in.
That's where the CPR comes in.
Yeah, I was in the middle of nursing school actually, and I'm doing CPR on this dog and trying to bring this dog back. And my sister is right here. She's losing her mind.
15 years old.
Yeah, sorry, McKenna.
Freshman
She's
in high
like
school.
losing her mind. My dad's over here losing his mind. My mom is like pacing around, and whenever anything happens like that, I just go into like fix it mode. Like, I just have to fix it. I don't give a crap what else is going on around me. Like, I'm going to fix it. And my sister was just losing her mind, and I knew I was not saving this dog anymore. And for some reason, my mind just flipped, and I looked at McKenna and started beating the shit out of her. And it was the only fist fight McKenna and I have ever gotten into. And we just started freaking wailing on each other and just blows for blows going back and forth. And my dad had to get in between us and separate us. And it was...
That's a hell of a day.
Yeah, it was a lot. But a week later, I found out I was pregnant with my son. So...
Hormones.
That's where the rage came from, is I didn't know I was pregnant. So, sorry. And Kane, while he is an absolutely amazing blessing in my life, and he saved my life, my pregnancy with Kane was definitely not met with excitement. Eric and I...
Is Eric the same age? 20? He's 20.
Yeah, Eric and I are the same age. We were 20, but Eric was in Kentucky going to school, so he was not here. So I found out I was pregnant with Kane, and it was a very confusing time, and it just really set in motion probably about a good year and a half of just real highs, real lows, and unfortunately, you know, my parents had to be front row seat for all of that. And I know that's difficult to watch your daughter go through changes in her body and then have a baby. And then I really struggled with postpartum depression after I had Kane. It was really bad. To the point my parents would have to come up and check on me in the middle of the night to make sure that I was okay. And I was just doing everything that I could to survive at that time. And that's really difficult. And as a mom now,
What? Talk to me about that. Your perspective. 20 years old.
Yeah.
All this going on.
Yeah, I was 21 when I ended up having my son.
Now you're a seasoned mother.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I was 21 when I ended up having my son, and Eric was set to go back to school.
What's he doing in Kentucky?
He was wrestling in Kentucky. My husband is a collegiate wrestler, All-American. But he was going to school out there, and when we found out I was pregnant with my son, I was here. He was there majority of the time of my pregnancy with Kane, and then he came back in April. We had our son in May, and it was a lot. We were two kids that had no place having a baby, and we were just trying to navigate that and navigate life, and then you add postpartum depression on top of that, and it was a lot to navigate, and it was very, very difficult. And I was in a very, very dark time, and my parents were literally driving me to therapy to get help because I was just a shell of the person who I am now.
Larry? I've never heard, we've talked about yours, but I've never heard this timeline a little bit. Where were you at this time? Unfiltered.
Yeah, I was drinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I escaped.
And Miranda, what time? You're 20, so what year?
I was 21 now.
So what age? Yeah. This is 2011?
This is, no. I wish.
Oh, no, 2013,
no, this
14.
is 2015. So I had my son in 2015.
Okay. So we've up. Okay, yeah. Uh-huh. So she's right. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying somebody else is wrong. I'm just saying her timeline and you're drinking.
I know.
Yeah. So this was 2015, and I, and it was a rough year. It was.
Keep going.
Yep.
I thought I unplugged it.
You did. Miranda plugged it in.
I'm so sorry.
The coffee. It's all right.
I'm so sorry. So that was 2015. And the next year was pretty rough. We were just trying to figure out life and, sort some stuff out. And what I look back at probably the hardest time of my life, I know that I had to walk through to get me where I was now. And without that, Eric and I wouldn't be where we're at now. We have an absolutely amazing life. We have an amazing marriage. We have 3 beautiful kids. We have a thriving business.
A new home.
A dream home.
It's not just a home, it's a ranch.
Yeah,
I know. It's a
beautiful place.
Yeah, we have our dream home. And we wouldn't have been able to be where we're at now, spiritually, emotionally, without that. And so even though it seemed hard at that time, I'm very thankful.
And it was hard. It didn't just seem that way, baby.
Sure.
It was hard.
Oh God, yeah. It was hard. It was super, super hard. And for me, I don't love sitting in those periods of time. I don't even like dwelling on them because I am a sponge. I'm an empathetic sponge. I will get back into that emotion, and I'll sit there for the next 2 weeks and just beat myself up about all the things that I could have done different. Yeah. And I know that's not therapeutic, and I know that does nothing for me. That's why, and the only reason
those are your experiences now to help the next woman that's getting ready to go through that you can help guide if they'll listen.
Yeah. And the only reason I go back to that is because, again, my dad says, he was drinking really heavily during that time. And, I know he was probably just trying to cope. I can't imagine watching my daughter. I just imagine Claire go walk through that and walk through such a valley that you can't pull them out of, regardless of.
As much as you want to fix it, you can't.
As much as you want to fix it, as much as you want to take that pain away.
You can't do it.
The heartbreak and the pain. I know that was probably very difficult for them to watch.
When did it start getting better for you? When did that kind of dark period start getting some light?
So I had to do a lot of therapy, and God bless my therapist. She was absolutely amazing. I started going to therapy twice a week, and then it went to once a week, and then I saw her for 7 years consecutively. She did so much work in my life. She was absolutely amazing.
Is she a believer or just a therapist?
No, she's a believer. Yeah. And she had her own walk, and she helped.
Amen.
Yeah. She had helped quite a bit. And, I don't see her regularly anymore, but I know that if I was to pick up my phone right now and call her, she would immediately call me back. She's always rooted for the positive. Like, she always rooted for, you know, what was going to be best for me, and she was going to help me navigate those situations. But yeah, that it really got better. Probably, I really started to come out around Kane's birthday. So we started to see some positive light. The only thing that I can ever contribute it to is, like, you know, when they say God chased the one to bring it back to the 99. Mm-hmm. I was running so hard from him. I was so mad. I was like, God, like, you know, I had this vision of a perfect family in my mind, and like, you didn't give that to me. And I should have been met with like happiness and love at this moment in time. And I was met with so much heartache. Like, why would you do this to me? I was so mad. And Eric had started going to Celebrate Recovery to work on some anger stuff.
Good.
And we were having to go to this co-parenting therapy. And, you know,
did he start coming to school out here, or did he stay in Kentucky?
He was back here now. After some stuff had happened, he came back.
Okay. And
he was going to Celebrate Recovery to work on some anger stuff. And he had invited me. He was like, do you want to go with me?
While you're running from God.
I was running, and I was like, and we weren't together at the time, and, you know, we were just trying to live life and, you know, move forward. And he was like, you know, do you want to go with me? And I was like, I guess, yeah, like, I'll go. And they had this group for codependency, and I was like, shit, I don't know, that sounds like maybe I'm codependent. So I started going to that. How'd
that work out?
You know, it was, I cannot give enough credit to that program, because it was what I needed at that moment in time, between the therapy and going to the structure of Celebrate Recovery, and like going and hearing people's stories that how God was moving in their life. I was like, I need that. Like, I want that. And then Eric and I started focusing on each other and started focusing on our family, and just, you know, we were like, okay, we're going to do this. Like, we're going to give this the best shot possible. And it wasn't an option. Like, we looked at each other and we were like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this for our son, and we're going to not do back and forth, and we're not going to be up and down. We're going to be solid. And we vowed that to each other, and we stopped listening.
With God in the middle of all that.
With God in the middle of it. And we stopped listening to everybody around us and what they thought was best, and just focused on what God thought was best for us. And we went in head first. And thank God we did, because look at us now. You know, we just keep moving in the right direction. And
3 bars of soap later.
Yeah, something like that, huh? But yeah, so, and even though those times were so hard, we got back together, and we've been super strong ever since.
So when did the jiu-jitsu start up with Eric?
So Eric, after he came back from college.
Because I always thought, until like when we were doing the dirt, I got to go to your guys' new house and talk to him. And I saw that, you know, the USA tattoo on the back of the wrestling, which is wrestlers. That's not jiu-jitsu people. And I was like, dude, you're a wrestler. So when did jiu-jitsu start? Yeah, so after he came back from wrestling, you know, we went a few years without him having an outlet, and he's so competitive, and he's so methodical in the way that he thinks, and the way that he moves he is just grace in a person. Like, I can't explain him any better. The way he moves is so confident without being egotistical and without being overbearing. He just moves with, there's no other word than grace. And he needed an outlet, and he was looking into competition and these things that he could do. And his older brother Caesar has started jiu-jitsu, and Eric was like, I'll go try it. And at first he was just kind of like, this isn't my thing, like, you know. And he went a little bit, and we went a year, and he was just craving competition. He needed something. And so then he really dove into jiu-jitsu, and he started going to a local jiu-jitsu academy and just kind of ran from there. And he really fell in love with it. And it seemed really quickly he went from, it was just like a hobby, to it was full force.
His head was in it. He was moving forward. And I think what really propelled him even more forward was back in 2021, we lost one of our really good friends during COVID. He was very young. Tori was not just a huge part of our life, but he was a huge part of my dad's life too. He was one of my dad's football players. And Tori was, God, he was the glue. Tori was every piece of joy you could fit in one person. He was so jovial. His face would just light up. He had the best laugh. He would just bring every piece.
What happened?
He got COVID and he was at home and his oxygen saturations were dropping. And so they called 911 and they took him to a local hospital. This local hospital was so not equipped for all the other things that Tori may have had going on with him as well. He was overweight, and he ended up having a heart attack and dying. And it shook all of us very much to the core. It was very, very rough. And that was in November of 2021 that Tori died. No, August. It was. I'm so sorry. It was August of 2021 that Tori died, and I think after that, Eric just really took into perspective what was important in his life, and he was teaching at the time, and while he loved teaching, he had been doing it for a while, and he just had this dream to open a jiu-jitsu academy, and he was kind of just like bouncing it around for a long time. And when we got Tori's cell phone back, we were all going through it, and Tori was literally texting commercial property owners in his hospital bed, attempting to find Eric a place to open this academy while he's in this hospital bed, thinking of Eric and the next move to help Eric fulfill this dream. And I think that just propelled Eric forward to make a dream a reality. And his dream was to put it in this old pharmacy in town. And, you know, he looked at me and he was like, hey, I think I'm going to do this. And I said, let's do it. And we opened it just, you know, on our wing and a prayer. We put money into it and we prayed over it. And we said, you know, Lord, just do your will with us, what you want. And the day we did pre-signups, we had a line around the door, a line all the way around the block for people to sign up. And it has been truly amazing to me to watch what the academy has done, not only for our community, but for my husband. We are, you know, I will say one thing.
Do they still do the Sunday prayer and roll?
So we do Sunday school of wrestling, and no, that will start back up in the summer. Yeah, but we do Sunday school of wrestling.
I just started. I got to do that. He told me about it a while back before, I still got the hip done, so I couldn't, you know. But now that I'm on the mat,
but you know what? I'll tell you this: my dad's walk into sobriety and my dad going and getting sober was really the catapult for Eric and I to really dive deep into our faith and to really.
We're going to get onto that. Yeah. So
sorry, I feel like we're on a rabbit hole a little bit.
No, we're good.
No,
we're good.
Yeah,
we're right where I wanted to be because
it was actually fun to listen to that. Quite honestly,
that's what because you were talking about 2021 when Eric, you know, was your friend, COVID. But however, because I didn't know, so you and I talked a little bit earlier. Yeah. I did not know that, you know, we were talking about his drinking and nobody's wrong. It's all just about perspective. Like when you read the Bible, you got Matthew, Mark, and Luke. You got the three synoptic gospels. Yeah. Right. Talking about the same man, you know, from different perspectives. Yeah. So I did not know that we tried to get him or the family. When I say we, the family, because 2020 I was going through cancer. That sucked. 2021 I was just sucked. Yeah. It all sucked. Well, I shouldn't say it. It was great because, like you said, the battles you went through. Yeah. Look where you're set now. Yeah. The strength we get from that. I went through a lot of those battles. Yeah. Wow. But you tried to get him to help in 2020. Yeah. So actually, no.
October 2020. So that was actually 2021.
So the Maynards happened about the same time then.
So the first Maynard attempt. Going back to Tori passing, my dad is my dad. My dad is loud. My dad is boisterous. My dad, he says off the wall shit, and it's just Larry. Like, he is who he is, you know, that's like
drunk or sober, baby. Yeah, it don't matter.
He's always been like that, and you know, it is what it is. But when Tori died, we were all in the front yard at my in-laws' house. My in-laws live on a really busy road in town, and you can always find us. And there was a ton of us just congregated in the front yard of my in-laws' house, and my dad came rolling up in his truck, just drunk off his ass. And my brother-in-law, who's a year younger than my husband, he's very meticulous. He's a very clean OCD, keeps his stuff very nice. My dad came rolling up drunker than hell, bust into the front of my brother-in-law's truck. And
fun time.
Yeah. And I was not there at the time. I came back, and he was like, hey, your dad was just here, and your dad ran into the front of my truck. And I was like, what? And he was like, I think he was drunk. And I was like, no, I don't think so. No, yes, he probably was drunk. But yeah, me and Eric.
So is this Eric's younger brother?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, and then I was like, I'm calling my mom, and I'm like, Mom, is Dad like out and about? Like, what is going on? Like, he just came over here and ran into the front of Edgar's truck. My mom's like, oh, fuck. All right, well, tell him I'll take care of it. Like, we'll deal with it. I was like, okay. So there was that, and you know, we're all in the middle of morning, and this happens, and you know, we just have to, you know, I'm like, oh no, Edgar, I don't think he was drunk. You know what I mean? Like, always covering for my dad, and always, you know, those kinds of things.
McKenna kind of had the same thing, you know, from her picture, you know, we'll get through this. You know, everything's all right. She, you know, but she's in her early 20s, so she's doing the early 20s, you know, just living life.
And I think too, what kind of opened Eric and I's eyes a little bit more, that there was like a real big problem. Eric and I had just helped. Eric and I had a friend that lived with us for 75 days, and we got him sober and got him to rehab, and that was. Talk about a test of your relationship.
Yeah, buddy.
It was a definite test.
Especially having him in the house.
Yeah. You know what? We had it was crazy. And I think Eric had lived with him for a little while. And when they were younger in their party stage, Eric had lived with him. And we hadn't seen him in a very long time. I won't say his name because I don't think it's necessary. But I was driving through town one day, and I was going home, and I went past, and there was somebody standing on the side of the road, and I was like, what the heck? So I turned around, went back, and sat in the Walmart, in the Taco Bell parking lot for a little while, and I was like, oh my God, that is him. And I called Eric, and I was like, hey, you know, so-and-so is over here, and he looks like crap. He's lost like 50 pounds. He looks terrible. And we had not seen him in like a year and a half. And Eric was like, oh, I can't go over there. I'm in the middle of something right now. So I called my dad, and I was like, hey, I don't want to approach him because I don't know like what kind of headspace he's in right now. So my dad came down there, and I was here at the house, and Eric came over here to meet me. Next thing I know.
I've heard this one.
Yeah. Next thing I know, here comes Larry walking in the door with this kid. And my dad.
You coached this kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my dad had his backpack.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Amazing kid.
He had his backpack like all strewn out on the front porch, had like gone through everything because he didn't want him bringing anything into the house. And, you know, we thought we were just going to give him a shower and dinner and send him on his way. And 75 days later, Eric and I were able to keep him sober, able to get him to meetings, able to get him to methadone clinic. I don't know if you really consider that sober, but we were able to keep him off of anything off the street for that long.
Better than where he was.
Yeah, we were able to get his VA benefits activated with some help from other people in the community. And, you know, we made that commitment to get him to rehab, and we did it. You know, he stayed for 60 days. It was supposed to be a 90-day program. He stayed for 60, and unfortunately, he told us the building got COVID, and so they put him all in a hotel, and, you know, he just went right back into that fight, and, you know, and...
We recently lost him.
Yeah, he's recently lost his fight with his addiction, but, you know, sorry. I think that taught Eric and I a lot, and that prepared us for what was about to happen with my dad.
But you see this in hindsight, how God kind of works. Yeah.
Yeah. So Eric and I were a little hardened, but we were a little bit more prepared for what we were about to go through with my dad.
You need to be hardened a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if too much emotion, you'll love them to death. You put too many pillows under their ass. You need to be hardened a little bit to take action when action needs to be fucking taken.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So
yeah, for sure. And we dropped him off. I think that was like February. We dropped him off at his rehab clinic, and
so that'd be February 2022.
That was 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So then McKenna talked about in her episode when we went to Disneyland.
Yeah.
And when we went to Disneyland, that was end of July. And like my dad and everybody had just gotten COVID. We took the kids to.
This is the B12 shot.
Yeah, so this is the B12 shot, and when all this happened, and we were in Disneyland, and my mom was getting all these calls. My mom was getting all these calls from McKenna and Patrick. Dude, my dad is just losing.
And you're down in.
Yeah, we're down in Anaheim in Disneyland. We're literally standing in line. I'll never forget.
Which ride?
For the Peter Pan ride.
Motherfuckers.
Dude, of course, like one of the longest lines too. Mom's like, and my dad's like, my sister was like, he's just fucking losing his mind. Like, he is just speaking gibberish. He's like not making any sense. And my mom's like, well, I don't know what to do. Like, what? I don't know. My mom's looking at me. She's like so stressed. She's like, should I go home? I'm like, no, like he's a grown man. Like he's going to be fine. Like it's going to be okay. We'll deal with it when we get home.
Peter Pan, honey. Let's
literally Peter Pan. So we get home from Disneyland, and Eric and I had a flood in our kitchen. And so our whole kitchen flooded, and they had to rip out all of our cabinets. This was a few weeks after we got back from Disneyland. And my dad was still just like not in a good way. Like, I don't know, something in COVID just flipped a switch in his brain, and he was, for a lack of a better word, very off of his rocker. He was very unpredictable. Like, you didn't know what he was going to say. You didn't know what he was going to do. He was just on edge all the time. And
drinking will do that.
Yeah. And
I was very angry.
Yeah.
Very fucking angry.
Yeah. So I was limiting the amount of time my kids were over here. I was trying to protect them from the situation. And, you know, my mom and I were having frequent conversations, and there was some people at our house. They were working on taking out the old cabinets and that kind of stuff. And I was at work, and I get a call from Eric, and he's like, hey, your dad just called me, and he said he's coming over here. I was like, for what? And he was like, he says he wants to wrestle. And I was like, oh, for what? He was like,
he's drunk.
Yeah, he was like, I have no idea. And so we had cameras that like overlooked our front yard. And I was like watching the cameras, and I like see him pull up, and he like pulls up all fucked like in front of the driveway and like gets out, and he just like walks into the front yard, and I see Eric come out of the front door, and my dad's like, all right, let's go. And these two just start going at it in the front yard, just wrestling, and my dad's like wrestling.
He had to take it easy on you.
Oh, no, God, Eric was whooping his ass.
No, but you still got to take it.
Yes.
Because I grapple now, you know, with, even though I'm old,
yeah.
but the younger kid, the 20-something-year-olds that they don't know how to wrestle, is they're learning jiu-jitsu like me. If you don't take it easy, you can hurt somebody, the older guys. Or I can hurt, you know. So Eric, with experience, could have hurt Larry. So even though he was whooping on him, he could have.
For sure.
Yeah.
But there's all these workers.
Hey, but I'm proud of you, buddy.
There's
get your ass over there and get after it.
Workers at my house, and they're just like all standing around the front yard, like
watching.
Yeah, like why is Eric beating up on this?
Guys being there.
Yeah, and like they're like watching Eric, and I'm watching it from the cameras.
So you remember this? What were you thinking?
I was angry.
Just want to grapple.
I was fucking angry.
Yeah.
Probably last year, I was an angry individual. Yeah. For whatever reason, after COVID, I was just fucking angry.
And I said, and I was, for me, because when COVID started, we'll say March of 2020, so kind of, February, March, when it really, when it first kind of came out, then my boss died. My grandmother died, 99. I get diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
So then, but I know, but COVID went all into 2021, was also, so.
Yeah.
So they're grappling.
Yeah. So I'm watching it in the cameras, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? And I'm like calling my mom, and my mom's, she's just like, I don't know. Like, we're so
She's just glad he's out of the house.
Oh my God. At that time, we were just living. It was just day to day. We were just living.
McKenna kind of described the same time.
Yeah. We were just
existing.
To me, at this point, my dad was just so an unreliable figure for me at that moment in time. Like, I could not trust him to watch the kids. I couldn't even leave the kids here for like 5 minutes. I never knew if he was drunk or sober. Like, I never knew. And it was just very limited exposure at that moment in time. Eric and I had our own life. We had our kids. We only had the two at the time. And we were just...
When was baby girl born?
So Everly, our third, she wasn't born until 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, Everly's only known as sober papa. So,
no, when was number 2 born?
Claire was born in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. So Claire, 2018, she was born.
So they're grappling on the front yard.
They're grappling in the front yard, and he it was so crazy. It was like he comes over, gets his butt kicked a little bit, and then he just gets back in his truck and leaves. And Eric calls me, and Eric was like, "That was so weird." I was like, what do you say at that point? I'm like, hey, thanks for kicking his ass. I guess that's what he needed. I don't know. So that was about mid-August.
Of 2021?
Yeah, 2021.
Okay, so I thought Tori passed in August 2021.
I don't. That
to,
entire 3 years, last 3 years is a blur.
I was talking to my mom. I'm sorry. We can cut some of this out, right? Mm-hmm. I was talking to my mom earlier. I'm trying to I get lost in the time frame of things because it was it was 9 months of just hell, Rob. I will tell you. It was
I bet. Well,
9 months
from our conversations. The first attempt at Maynard's, I thought, when you and I talked was 2020 of October.
No, we're going to get in. Rob and I had a phone call the other day.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, I needed to work through some of this. So just timeline wise, we were in Disneyland in the end of July. Yeah, and then our house ended up flooding. I'm so sorry.
August.
Oh my gosh, Tori died at the beginning of September.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were in Disneyland in July. August, the whole wrestling thing happened. Yeah, because our house flooded.
Right.
Tori dies in September.
Wow.
Yes.
This is a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. 2021 was a rough year. So then Tori dies in the beginning of September. His funeral is September 25th. So, and that was rough. And, it was never easy, but yeah. And then, so September, that's the end of September. And,
So it's probably October.
Okay, so
October,
October, yeah, that's where
they would try to get him to.
So the beginning of October 2021, he was still, very much angry, very much going through the motions. And there was a day he was here at home working, and I get a call from my mom, and my mom's like, "Hey, have you talked to your dad?" And I'm like, "No, why?" And she's like, "Well, I've been trying to get a hold of him, and I can't get a hold of him, and we all knew he was in such a bad way, and we live out here in the country. There's guns in our house. We have guns in the house." And my mom says, I'll never forget this. My mom said, "I've not been able to get a hold of him, and I'm really worried he did something to himself." And I said,
because she sees the day to day.
Yeah. And I said, "Mom," "what do you like?" And she's like, "I'm leaving work right now. I'm headed that way. Will you just stay on the phone with me?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I'm headed this way. She's headed this way. We're coming, and
don't know what you're going to walk into.
We don't know what we're going to walk into. And I'm on the phone with her, and I have my work phone. I have two phones. I have a work phone, and I have my phone. I have my work phone on, about to call 911 if she needs me to, and I have her on my other phone, and she walks into the house, and she walks in, and he's asleep in their bed. Passed out drunk in the bed. She hadn't talked to him since 10 o'clock that morning. It was 3 o'clock at this point. And she's like, "Oh, okay,
but 10, 11, 12, 1. So even if there's 5 hours and she hasn't heard from him,
yes,
which is not a long time, but what has really been, I'm saying just for the listeners, because I know what goes on in the house of an alcoholic.
Yeah.
For what Katie had to be thinking.
Yeah, and all the emotions that he was going through, and he had been, so angry, so depressed, so just out of sorts that we thought at that point him doing something to himself was not out of a realm of possibility.
Obviously.
And, we know there's guns here, and my mom really thought that's what she was walking into. And for her to have that burden, for her to know that, she didn't want me here. She didn't want me to find it. She took that upon herself to come home.
So did you meet up at the same time, or is she here for you?
No, I was on the phone with her when she was like, he's okay. I'll call you back. So that was a Monday, and I came right here after that, and he was just out of his mind. He was so drunk. I ended up taking his phone, calling the owner of the company that he worked for at that moment in time. And I was like, "Listen, I have his phone. you're going to call me if you need anything. We got to fix this. There's something very, very wrong. And so I had been at a position. I had only been in this new position since February. And
that's a Larry Shepard deal, though, too. Part of that take charge personality.
Yeah. And so I had called my boss. I was like, hey, I need to take the next 2 days off. I got to sort this out. And she's like, whatever you need, take care of it. So I took the next 2 days off. My mom had something going on at work that she couldn't be home. And I was getting his ass into rehab. And so the next 2 days, really, I was just here babysitting Larry. And good Lord, I was babysitting a very angry Larry. And I brought my laptop, I brought my stuff. I came and sat with him all that next day. And I had his phone, I had my phone, I had my work phone. I was working from the counter. I was doing whatever I needed to do. I was calling these rehabs, getting information, called Maynard's, talked to Marty, gave him all the information, kind of told him what was going on. And they were going to start helping me at that point. And he's listening to me make these calls, and he's laying on the couch, and he's just being a dick. And he's like, I don't fucking need you here to babysit me. I don't need this. I don't need that. And I'm just like, okay, like meeting his anger with grace to the best that I could at that moment in time. And it's probably about 12:30, and he's sitting there, and he's sitting on the couch, and he looks over at me, and he goes, the reason my drinking's so bad is because of what you and Eric put us through, right? And in that moment in time, every negative thought that I ever had about myself for that situation
just came to fruition.
Was validated by not just myself. Trust me, like I said at the beginning, I beat myself up about that harder than anybody ever could. But for my dad to validate that and to take essentially first acknowledge he had a problem, because he hadn't acknowledged it before, to acknowledge that he had a problem and to put that problem on me, so heavy. And I just remember looking at him and saying, that is really unfair. That's really unfair that you could say that to me. And he was just so smug. He was just like, well, it is what it is. Like, it's the fucking truth. And I sat there, continued to call rehabs, continued to do what I could do to find him some help. And I was texting Eric. Eric was at work, and I was like, you'll never believe what my dad just said to me. And he's like, he's like, you can't believe that. You can't believe that. And even though I know now that that's not true, that's something that you just don't move past. You just don't, you don't wake up the next morning and be like, oh, he didn't mean it. Like, it's so heavy to bear the responsibility of somebody's addiction. To bear that.
When you already had that burden on yourself.
Yeah.
For, the one that brought you into the world.
Yeah.
Layer bear.
Yeah.
I get it.
To hold on to that. And I, after that, never said anything about it. I never, I've never brought that back and been like, you said this to me, you've done this to me. I've just held on to it. And
it's not yours to hold on to, baby.
Yeah. Hold on a second. So, the crazy thing about that, sis, and I'm going to address this right now. I had this same conversation with somebody else 2 days ago, and I'm not going to mention the name of it, but they can tell their story when they get the opportunity. But they basically said the same thing. And I'm going to tell you this, and to any alcoholic that's not yours to hold on to. That's mine. Nothing anybody did caused me to put that alcohol in me. Nothing. What that was a angry, self-centered piece of shit that had allowed alcohol to consume him to a point where I was so dependent on it, I couldn't stop drinking more than a day without seizures. And the fact that these living amends that I try so desperately to do, one of the things that we have to do as alcoholics, and we do our amends and we do those things, is, with our families, we have to live with these things, and it's difficult, right? It's difficult.
The things that bother me the most to this day,
right,
are not anything that I did to anybody, or none of my actions. And not that those were good. They don't bother me like today. But the shit that I said to people,
right, and
that I remember, the shit that I don't remember. But the shit that I remember saying to people, the hurtful things, kill me.
And that, like I said, I can't fix that. I can't, right? I can't. Until that was told to me, that never even dawned on me.
You don't remember?
I don't remember it, right? I
didn't come up. I was telling Miranda when we were talked about this.
I don't.
We had our moment.
Not an ounce.
Because in his step work, this never came out, which doesn't surprise me.
I struggle.
Now that I understand the condition he was in this time.
And I've struggled with this all week. And I can only imagine you probably talked to my husband is probably where that's coming from. But
No, it wasn't her.
No?
Nope.
That's surprising. I've struggled with it really heavily.
It wasn't something I'd said to you. It was another person.
Oh, gotcha.
Completely outside.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you were like...
No. Not the same situation at all.
Yeah.
That's what's odd. That's what's odd about this is it's within the 5-day period, the same thing has been brought up. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But by God, that is not for you to carry.
Yeah.
Not for you to carry.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah.
But in the moment...
And,
yeah.
And
I can't fix that.
Yeah.
I can't.
You know, I'm just sitting, and I was just sitting there at this counter, like trying to get you help, like trying to, I took your work phone. I took this. I took that. I took
I remember it vividly now. Now I remember it very vividly.
Yeah, every mode of transportation.
Lashing out.
Yeah, and just,
taking my guns out of the house.
Yeah, doing whatever.
I remember all that now.
Yeah, like
Forgot all about that. Forgot all about it.
Is that something?
Not 1 ounce of a memory till this came up. Not even a thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Yeah, and it was just, it was really heavy. And
so so what stopped him from going? Why didn't Raiders happen?
He was not on board to go at that time. Like at that time, it was like me and my mom were like, "You're fucking going."
Okay, now
and he was
from McKenna's story.
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong. Where she said about this time, you, your mother, the women, the family, kind of talking. Hey, he may not be in the home. Going on because you guys seen this.
Yeah,
that's kind of where this is going.
Yeah, so that was October, and that was 2 days of hell. And us really arranging everything for him to go.
But he didn't want to go yet.
No, and he was like, I'm fine. I don't need to go. I'll be better. Okay.
I got this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So he, and it was just, for me, it was like, okay, bury that away. Just keep moving. I got my own shit I have to worry about in that moment in time. And, if he's not willing to go, I'm not going to make him go. And so, we kept moving, and we went through the holidays, and, same thing, the holidays. And we, came through the turn of the year, and I could just see the tension bullying with my mom. And then my mom starts having conversations with me and McKenna of
this is what McKenna kind of talked on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dad might not be in the home anymore.
Yeah. And these are heavy conversations to have with your grown daughters. And my mom asking, if I've got to go or if I've got to leave the house, essentially what should I do? What is the plan here? Should I kick him out? Should I leave? What should I do? And these are conversations that I never imagined I would have to have with my mom. My parents, the D word is not a word that we say in this house. We don't say it in my marriage now. My parents never used that word. And to know that was a realm of possibility at that moment in time was terrifying. Even at 30 is scary to hear your parents possibly going through that. And knowing at that moment in time that I felt as though that was a better solution for my mom than what she was living in that moment in time.
Oh, I bet.
Dude, just get out. You know what? If this is your day to day, she had gone to the point where she had put his ass on a freaking allowance to stop him from going to buy an alcohol. She had just as short as gone to every liquor store here in town and told them don't sell to him. She tried everything possible to slow him down. He was just a menace to himself at that moment in time.
Alcoholics, yeah.
Yeah. He was going to get it, and he didn't give a shit where he got it. And
well, hell no. We got to get our medicine.
Yeah.
We got to get right.
Yeah. And listening to her and the amount of money that he was spending on alcohol, and her even like taking away his cards and taking away this and taking away that. And then he learned how to use Apple Pay, and it was just all like downhill from there. So, that came, and that put us in April. And my son was playing T-ball at the time, and my dad and mom.
So here comes the grandson's T-ball game. Dude, what a catalyst. What T-ball game and Patrick. What a fucking catalyst. Yeah. I love it. So tell me about the T-ball game.
Yeah, so my son was playing T-ball at the time.
Okay, hold on, but I want to. What is he then? Mm-hmm. Like as a grandpa?
Non-existent.
Yeah.
What's he like now?
Non-existent.
What's he like now as grandpa?
Oh my gosh. You know what? If he could be up their butts, he would. He's just like, he can't cuddle them enough. He can't love on them enough. Especially my little one, I don't want to say she's like adverse to men, but she is like, she'll give you like a moment of her time, and she's like, all right, bye. Like, we'll get up and leave.
Except for Patrick.
I know. For some reason, she just like loves Pat, and she'll sit with him. No problem. And my husband's dad, her Tutu, she loves Tutu. She'll hang out on Tutu all the time. She talks about Tutu all the time. But like other men and my dad, she'll be like, all right, I gave you 10 minutes. I'll see you later.
Who's that? Who's that in the family? Or is that just this is a brand new personality?
Who? Oh no, she's brand new. Oh, gosh, she's a personality of her own.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, but my son is very much is a Papa's guy. He'll come, like if Papa calls and Papa says, hey Bug, you want to go run this or you want to go do this? And he's like, yeah, let's go. He's a writer for his Papa. He'll go wherever. We
were texting all morning about Sacramento Hornet games.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, my 10-year-old, he's a light of my life. He is a sports guru, and it was so funny. For the longest time, he could have cared less about sports, and it was like a light came on in him, and he is a football guy, he's a wrestling guy, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, he is a basketball guy. Whatever this season is,
so he's playing T-ball.
Yes, so he's playing T-ball.
He's drunk.
He ends up leaving the T-ball game. He ends up leaving like mid T-ball game, and my mom is still there. They came in separate vehicles for some reason.
I had been in an appointment in Modesto.
Yeah. So he comes and he leaves, and my mom, after the game, hugs, kisses, bye. My mom goes home, and my mom's probably home for like 20 minutes. She calls me. She's like, I need you to come over here. I'm like, for what? Like, what's going on? She's like, your dad's drunk as hell. He's being mean. I'm not doing this anymore. And I was like, okay, like, I'm on the way. I tell Eric, I was like, my mom needs me. I gotta go. And so I come over here, and he's laying on the couch, and he's just like in a corpse position, like his arms are crossed, and he's just like so drunk. And I go over and I'm like pushing him, and I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Like, what the fuck, pretty much. And he's like, leave me alone. And I'm like, no, like, what's going on here? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, I fucking told you to leave me alone. And he pulls one of those big ass long legs and fucking kicks me right in the chest, sends me backwards on my ass. And I got up and just started wailing on him, started punching him, telling him, what the fuck? Like, you think this is okay? You think you're gonna treat us like this? Like, this is the fucking end. Like, this, you make a fucking decision right now. This is the end. This is where we draw the line when violence gets started. Like, this is not okay. And my mom is crying. My mom's pulling him off me. My mom's I'm calling Eric. Like, my dad just kicked me. Eric's like, I'm on the way. Like, Eric goes and drops off the kids. My grandma, who is, you want to see my dad's kryptonite, make him deal with my Nana.
Okay, this is his mother?
No, this is my mom's mom.
Not your mom's mom, okay.
Yeah. No one can straighten that man out more than that 5'8", hell on wheels lady. And she just looks at him and he gets set straight, I'll tell you that. And so we're calling in all the enforcements because this is go time at this point. Like, we're done. And so Eric shows up, my grandma shows up, my grandpa shows up, and he's just,
this is intervention going on. I didn't know there's all these people. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Trust me, I don't remember that many people being there either.
Yeah. And my we're all telling him that this is done. We're done here. We're absolutely done. Like,
so when does the call to Patrick go out? That where Larry says, finally, I'm done.
So I think the call to Patrick happened before I got here.
Okay.
Because that's why he was like so angry at that point. Like,
no, absolutely not.
Okay.
No. Patrick was,
correct my timeline.
Yeah, no. All that, my clarity came in at the phone call to Patrick, which once again, I want to say this. God led my son-in-law to be, he wasn't the catalyst for he wasn't the reason why all that happened. That phone call was when my moment of clarity, that's when I came to. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, fuck, I need help.
Yeah.
I need fucking help.
But this is the moment. This is the day.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
and Eric came and Eric was telling him, like, hey, bro, this ain't good. Like, you just kicked my wife. Like, he went from being my dad's son-in-law to being my husband really quick. Mm. And he was like, Eric very much was trying to stay out of it and not get involved. And he had to get heavily involved at that point and was like, this.
So did he go to Maynard's that day? Or you had to wait?
Mm-hmm. So even after all that, I got on the phone immediately and called Maynard's. And I actually talked to Marty again. And Marty was like, I remember when you called in October. Mm. And I was like,
Marty's awesome.
I was like, yeah, he's coming. I was like, what do we got to do? And he was like, let's start working on it right now. Get me all the information.
But hold on. I just want to clarify, because once again,
what we talking
from
with
that end of that phone call to today, mm-hmm. I haven't forgot anything. Into that phone call to Patrick to now.
But you already had called.
My moment of clarity.
But you had stuff scheduled.
So when that happened,
did you call Pat? Like, I think that's where I get confused.
Yeah.
In that
I don't remember everybody being here. I don't. I remember you and Mom, mm-hmm. right, and Eric mm-hmm. being here. I don't remember Grandma and Grandpa being here. That doesn't matter. Whatever. All that chaos went, and I kept telling everybody, "I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay." And I went to call Patrick. Once again, just a phone call. I just, thank God he didn't answer. But the reason why he didn't answer wasn't because he was mad at me.
No, we know now.
Right. Yeah. But he didn't answer. And when he didn't answer, I once again, my 100% moment of clarity, I was mm-hmm. staring out the windows right there in the kitchen. And when he didn't answer, I stood up, I turned around, and I said, take me to Maynard's.
Yeah.
I was done. Wide awake at that point.
Yeah.
I was done.
Yeah. So that was Saturday, and I called up there and I got, I filled out all the paperwork. I got all of his insurance stuff over there. We got that all sorted out, and they said, okay, let him keep drinking. Don't let him stop.
Oh, hold on. They said that to me, and I had to put it on speakerphone to make sure everybody else heard that.
Yeah. They said they did to me.
Yeah.
I said, wait, I get my phone to my wife.
Yeah. So obviously they told him to keep drinking, and they didn't want him to stop because they didn't want him to like start going into DTs and everything like that. So then that was Saturday, and we all just kind of like hung around. Like, the tension was just so high. We were like staring at him like he was a freaking caged animal. And then he calls Eric when we finally get home, and he's like, I want to go on a walk with you and Pop tomorrow. And so Eric and my grandpa, my mom's dad, they got up in the morning and they went and walked to the canal. And my poor grandpa, he's in his 80s. They didn't get very far. My dad got a bum hip, and they just went on this walk, and they had, I don't know what kind of a conversation they had. That's between them three. And then they ended up coming back, and I have this picture, and maybe my dad will post it. I took it on that Sunday. All three of them were sitting on the couch reading the Bible together. And I remember Eric telling him, like, Larry, this is the time, this is now that you gotta go. Like, this is the time to make it right. Like, you've got to do this for you. And my dad and I had a separate conversation, and I told him, I said, you're going. And I said, and if you leave early, it will be the last time that you see my kids. I will not put my kids in this situation. I will not put my kids around this. This is not good for them. And he was crying, and he's like, I can't believe you'd say that to me. And I said, I mean it. 1,000% I mean it.
There's that 1,000% shepherd.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was Sunday, and then Monday they didn't have the room for him. So on Tuesday, they said, we're going to take him in on Tuesday.
April 12th.
Yep. My sister and my mom and I, we took him up and.
Okay. And I've heard 3, but I haven't heard Katie's yet, but 3, 2, this would be 3rd, version of the drive up. What were you thinking? Were you hopeful? Were you?
You know what? I think
was it just kind of like McKenna was just like, being there for mom, being there for Katie.
Yeah. I was there for business at that point. I was there for my mom. I was there to get him up there. I was there to make sure he went in there. And the funniest part of this is I've not heard, McKenna didn't say this. This man was finding every reason to pull over on the way up there. Oh, I need this. Oh, I forgot this. Oh, I need shoe. Oh, I need shoe. Oh, I need this.
I don't remember that.
Oh my gosh. We had to pull over at the last gas station before we got up to meet her to get, and he's like, oh, I'll go in and get some chew. I'm like, no, I'll go. I went in and got him a can of chew and we kept going. We kept going up the hill, and we get up there, and like McKenna said, that Marty meets us out front, and they put us in this little room, and again, he's like a caged animal when his anxiety is bad. He's just like pacing around.
Yeah. And I was mad
and anxious. And
I wasn't mad. I was very anxious at that point. My anger subsided.
Yeah,
I wasn't angry no more.
But anxious, that anxiety,
very, very
on point.
Yeah.
So the prayer happens, Marty.
Yeah. So Marty prays over us, and we go outside and we say our final goodbyes to him, and he, is loving on my mom, and he goes to go inside, and we watch him. We stand out there and we watch him walk in, and we watch him go in. And then my sister and I just loved on my mom, and told her this was the best decision that he has made, and we were really happy that he had done it and followed through. And this was just the first steps forward. And then that began like our 5 days of.
What was the drive home like?
The drive home, I ended up driving home.
You didn't stop by Cover's and get anything to eat?
No. We came straight down, and we came home.
I want to back up for just a second.
Go ahead. Because
of where I'd put us financially, Katie had taken all of our cash and put it away.
I wasn't going to talk about that. It doesn't matter.
It does to me, because this is what Miranda's. So that we had to put money down. We didn't have cash. She ended up having $3,500 cash available so I can go in. So that's what that came from her. Katie obviously paid her back. We just couldn't get the cash out fast enough for when we get in. So Miranda
got you in.
Miranda fronted the cash to get me in. Mm-hmm. Yep. Just because, like I said, Katie had shoved all of our savings, everything where I couldn't get to it.
Yeah. My mom was really stressed when they told us that was going to be, that he was going to have to pay that up front. He was going to have to pay that cost. And Eric and I looked at each other, and we were like, with no hesitation, we were like, we've got it. Like, we don't even worry about it. Like, we'll go get it right now. And Eric and I went to the bank, and we pulled out the money, and we gave it to my mom. And my mom's like, I'll get it back to you. I'm like, I'm not stressed about it at all. Like, if it gives you peace of mind, like, run. Like, for all the things that they've ever done for me, like, that's minuscule. Minuscule. That was nothing. And
so what's 28 days like with him gone?
So what's to go back, the first 5 days we don't hear from him because they're detoxing him. And
okay. Now we didn't have phones in. All we had was a little pay phone in the rooms.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually the first phone call, because, when I did the intake call with Marty was asking me, like, what's going on? And I had told Marty this whole conversation, like, he's being really mean to my mom. He's, he kicked me, all these things. He had kicked me, and, Marty was, like, obviously concerned. And so when he finally gets these phone calls, and they're putting him through pretty extensive therapy, I get this phone call from him, and
5 days later.
5 days later. And first off, I'm so nervous because I am getting this phone call from my dad, who's in rehab, getting better. And the phone call that I get is met with, "Hey, did you tell them that I kicked you?" And I was like, hi. Yeah, I did. Well, why would you say that? Why would you say that? I didn't do that. And I was like, yeah, you did. And he was like, well, why would you tell them that I was being mean and that I was being abusive to you guys? Like, that's not okay. Like, that's not right. And I'm like, Dad, that's literally the truth. Like, you literally kicked me. I'm not lying. Hangs up on me. And I was like, oh, cool phone call. Like,
well, because everybody who knows been to our podcast, if you don't, Larry's first 20-something days of his 28-day.
I didn't give.
He was a asshole.
I was a motherfucker.
Yes. Yeah. And I could hear somebody on the other line. I don't know who it was, if it was Marty or whomever. And they were like, see, I'm not lying to you. You did do that. Like, they're telling him, like, validating that this is true.
I mean, but he's just coming again.
Yeah.
Because I hate to make excuse for the alcoholic, because we don't. But as you're coming out of the fog, there's a lot of shit you don't.
Yeah.
It's in and out, but yeah.
I like I, you said it. First 20-some days, I was just fucking.
You were telling him how to run Mainers. You were going to fix everybody up there.
I mean, I was sober and I was clear thinking. I was just still angry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't really been given I had my moment of clarity that I knew I was done drinking, right? But at that point, I was very pissed off about having to be sober. Mm-hmm. I hadn't really,
Chris hadn't turned the chairs around on you yet. You hadn't
there
had
was
that
still
moment.
a little bit. There was still a little bit to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So then when he obviously went through all of his days, my mom and his brother and my aunt went in and got him. And then when they came down, he went and picked up the kids from school, and Kane was, so excited to see him, of course. And I promised him, hey, you finish these days and you can see the kids. But if you leave early or you don't stick it out, you're not seeing my kids. You're not doing it. And he did it. So he was able to go pick him up from school. And
what was that like?
That whole day, honestly, I don't remember picking the kids up that day. The biggest part of that day that I remember getting out is seeing my brother and my wife and my sister. Really, the rest of that day was a blur.
Yeah.
It really was. Yeah. And then meeting Jay and Jeanette the first time, rest of that day was a blur. It was just, I was overwhelmed with just so much new shit coming at me.
And your personality and hers.
Yeah.
I want to make it right. I want to make it right. I want to make
I
all
was
this
ready
right.
to go.
I want to make all this right.
I was not going to be held up by anybody. Right.
Yeah.
I was at that point, I was so ready to get through those steps. Nothing was going to keep me from doing it. And that was the only thing I was focused on. Yeah. I wasn't focused on going back to work. I did, but all I wanted to do was get through those steps. That's what I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. He came out and put his nose to the grindstone. He was working the steps and going to meetings. And, I'm hearing all these things about, the things that he's getting involved with and the people that he's talking to.
But what do you see in your father?
He was very subdued a little bit when he came home. He definitely wasn't like my dad has a very, very bright light. He's very bright, and it was very dim still. He was not that bright, bubbly person that he is to his core. And, it's very infectious.
So when did you start seeing that more and more?
I think really when he started doing like his amends, and when he started feeling that he had a good grasp on his sobriety. And honestly, Rob, really after he met you and started working with you, I think those lights in him really turned back on.
Don't fucking blow his head up.
I'm not.
God damn it.
I'm just being truthful.
It is true.
It's all about the timeline.
Yeah.
It's true.
I think he had to find somebody that matched his energy. And I think Jay was amazing for him. And we heard so much about Mr. Jay. And I met Jay, and my dad would take me to meetings and with him. And so
what'd you think about AA meetings?
I had been exposed to it a little bit. I like the style of it because I had done Celebrate Recovery. So I liked it. I definitely thought it was interesting. I went to a birthday one, and I thought that was nice. And everybody was so inviting, and they want to talk to you. And they, they're so.
Jay likes the pretty girls.
Jay.
He loves the pretty girls.
Yeah, my dad's my dad. And as he brought me in, he's like, stay away from her. Don't talk to her. So.
Somebody thought she was my wife. That was the funniest. No, I think I introduced you as my wife.
Oh, Lord. That wouldn't surprise me. I don't recall that, but yeah.
And I think, because when he met me, when we started working, that's when he got involved with the men.
Yes.
Right. The Monday night,
No. I hadn't gotten involved with that yet.
No. When you started working with me, the first.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for so long before he started going to that Monday night meeting, it was like he was still trying to find his home.
Mm-hmm.
And
for sure.
I think when he found that Monday meeting, he really found home. And
that's when he really lit up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
The lights definitely came back on. And, he was...
I felt like I was around my people.
Yeah.
That's
so there you go.
Yeah.
My head's still the right side. It wasn't me.
No.
It's the camaraderie of the men.
It's that group of people.
Yeah.
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 Well, and the steps in God. No. It's all God.
Right.
Oh,
It's
for sure.
all God.
Right.
However, God uses, God makes, and God,
For sure. And he was still new into his sobriety as well when Eric and I got engaged. We got engaged in July of 2022.
And you guys have been together for how long?
Yeah. So we've been together off and on. I will say that because if not, he'll get me. Off and on for 15 years.
Okay.
We had 2 kids and we, our trajectory is just different, but it worked for us. And we got ourselves to listen. We've been married and divorced 3 separate times at this point. And you know what? It took us.
That's awesome.
It took, our foundation was so unbelievably strong by the time that we got married that, we've been through
the foot washing I've never seen. I appreciated that. I got to be at the wedding.
Yeah.
I got to. That was great.
Yeah.
Watching him cry right down the aisle. But I've never.
She got that she got that from Pastor Rich.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We came back. We did it in the church, and it's always been.
When I was about 9 years old, my dad did a feet washing ceremony at the church, and it always stuck with me because it was the first time that I had ever seen my dad really just. That was the first time I'd ever seen my dad pay amends. And at that age, you don't understand it. It's just like, okay, my dad's telling me sorry for all these things for what? But it was so humanizing. I remember even as a 9-year-old being like, it was so important to me that my dad was like apologizing to me for things that I didn't even like remember. I was like, okay, thanks, Dad. So.
See, and for McKenna.
Yeah.
Larry's humanizing because she didn't remember that. She was young.
She was so little. Yeah.
His humanizing came with his alcoholism.
Yeah.
Is when she,
Yeah. And so Eric and I, it was really important for me, Eric and I have been through so much and we have come out on the positive. But for me, it was, I think washing someone's feet just like Jesus did, it's the most humanizing and serving thing that you can do for someone that it just strips away all pride. And for me, it was let me wash away all of those years that we had to work to get to where we are right now. And to almost walk into our marriage doing that, it was, wow, it was so powerful. And we still get people that talk to us about it. And, it was really important that we did that for each other and for everybody else and all the things that
There's
we did.
so many people that didn't have any idea what was going on. And I told Miranda when she said she was going to do it, I was like, make sure the pastor kind of, make sure he kind of explains that a little bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise people are just going to think you're quirky. But he had to explain it a little bit why it was happening. So he did a good job.
And for anybody who's listening who doesn't know, Jesus, he washed the feet of his disciples to humble himself in front of them, to show them I am not above you, that I can't get down on my knees in front of you and wash your feet and, just bring myself down to your level. And it's so it's humbling. It's absolutely a humbling experience. And I encourage anybody that, if you've had a big argument with your spouse or you need to go before someone and just lay it all out.
Or child.
Oh my gosh,
or
yes.
Yeah.
And you just need to humble yourself in front of them, wash their feet, wash away all of that hurt that is at the bottom and just dump it out. Dump it out after.
That's a good point.
Start new, start afresh.
So what's Larry like now? I mean, what is as your guys really, as the family grows? I mean, because you got a family of your own. McKenna's not quite there yet.
Yeah. Eric and I now have 3 kids.
What's he like now?
Yeah. So we had Everly was my engagement gift.
When,
so
before the alcoholism, go ahead.
No, I mean, so I got out May 10th.
Yeah.
Her birthday's July 17th. We went to Tahoe.
Yeah.
That's how quickly I had to be around that, right? I had to be around all that drinking. And I can honestly tell you my obsession was completely gone even by July. And I can't remember. I don't think we had been through the steps yet.
I don't even think you had met Rob.
We hadn't met yet.
No. And so that was like my first, and funny story about that. It's the first time I remember, you guys have heard me tell this story. My wife was being a brat, and I literally got to look at her and go, "You're being a brat," without her having the ability to say, "Well, you're a drunk." Guess what? I'm not. Yeah. And the funny thing about it, like instantly, she's just like, okay. And we, then her and I left and had an amazing freaking night after her and I left. Mm-hmm. But it just, anyways, I don't know why I went down that road, but it was, I just remember having to go up, not having, but the opportunity to go up there for her birthday. It was her 30th birthday, right?
Yeah, it was my 30th birthday. We were actually supposed to get engaged in Tahoe. And for some reason, I had picked up Eric's phone, and my dad and him were texting about Tahoe was supposed to be a surprise. And they were texting about it. And I had seen the text, and he was so mad. He was like, "Why are you looking at her?" I was like,
Eric was.
Yeah, I was like, I was just looking at something. I swear,
it was a whole surprise once he got back.
Yeah.
Once we got back. Anyways.
Yeah. So once we got back from Tahoe, we got engaged on my birthday, but my dad, we all went out drinking and all that kind of stuff after we got engaged. And, my dad, made the decision to stay home and, do those things. And we never had a negative, oh my God, why aren't you going? Why aren't you going with us? We just knew that was right, what was right for him in that situation. But knowing that he was sober and being able to see those milestones from a sober view, whereas just that meant more than him being there at all. Knowing that he could see it through a sober lens and enjoy it and not forget about it, or me not feel stressed about oh God, drunk Larry, you never knew what drunk Larry was going to say. I was always stressed about what drunk Larry was going to pop off with.
That's why the family afterward talks about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and having those experiences, was just great. I'm happy that Eric and I didn't get engaged and get married during the thickness of his addiction. I can't imagine
Praise
having,
God. Yeah.
I can't imagine having that stress of worrying about him at our wedding or what he was going to do or what he was going to say or.
No, that's about as proud as I've seen a man actually that day.
Oh yeah. 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 And that's I've said this multiple times. The pleasure that I was given to walk her down the aisle was, it was like a pinnacle, and then McKenna decides to do it 2 years later. So I get the honor to do it again, and it's just, and I say this, I was one drink away from missing all that, we talk about that turning point, it says that our turning point was me looking out those windows in the kitchen and turning around and saying, "Take me to Maynard's." With everybody standing there, I could have turned around and said, "You're all fucking stupid." And
which you probably said before anyway, but
this
I could have, I had the opportunity. I had that moment, but I had my moment of clarity and I turned around and said, "Take me to Maynard's." Right.
Yeah.
And if we could bottle that, Larry, and spray it in those, the ones that,
and I don't know if I'd fully committed to it or not. I just knew I needed help at that point. Right. I was done. The fight was over. I ceased fighting that day. I didn't want to fight no more. And my depression was at a point where I didn't want to deal with nobody, talk to nobody. Hearing Miranda talk about, I don't remember the thought of Katie thinking that I'd done something to myself. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. And I don't think
you could kind of hear, especially when McKenna was talking about it,
I hadn't heard it put that way.
But everybody,
I'm sure when Katie gets on here, she'll be able to talk about it a little more.
Because when McKenna was talking about it, it's kind of made me wait. The
thought of my wife driving home thinking that.
Yeah.
And her not wanting anybody else to come or.
That's why I wanted to ask Miranda, because I thought about when McKenna was sharing it. Well, McKenna had only not talked to him for 5 hours. Why would she be so worried? Because all that stuff going on, then now we kind of get to a little back. You get more layers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the shit we put people through.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. That was a rough day. That was hard.
A rough day and a great day. Well, no, that one wasn't.
Yeah,
it was a ball game.
No, that was the first. That was our first attempt.
The T-ball game was the great day.
Get him there.
Yeah, the T-ball game was the day I left there and came home. I don't. Yeah, I don't. Here's the best part about that is I don't even remember going to the game. Now, I blocked because, as I've said before, I never drank to black out. Right, that's never where I wanted. I'm going to assume I went to the game and realized I needed a fucking nap. Because that's normally what I drank.
Because you got to be, oh shit, I got the
I went to wrong. I went to the other side, and I'm like, right. Yeah, no, I need to go home, take a nap, and I went home and fell asleep, right? Because I was at that point where, I just didn't want to.
As we like to call it, passed out.
Yeah, but even the day after that Sunday, when we knew we were moving in the direction of rehab, and we knew he was going to Maynard's, and he was like sitting on the couch, and then I don't know if he was like trying to make light of the situation. He was like, hey, you guys want to see where I hide all my alcohol? And we were like, no. Like, he was just trying to make like a joke out of it, and we were so not in like a joke.
He just wanted to break the tension.
And he was like, oh, all right, well, I hide it in a suitcase in the garage. Like, we were like, oh my freaking God, like, we don't care. Like, at this point, we just got to get you somewhere where you can get the help. And he just tried to be Mr. Jokester all the way through.
The funny thing about that is when they did tell Katie to make sure I had some alcohol, right? Did
she go to the suitcase?
No. Well, here's the funny part, right? Wasn't the suitcase. It was my toolbox. Anyways.
You had two. You had.
Okay. I'm sure I had more.
You still showed me. Yeah.
Yeah. And
against my will.
And then when we got home from Katie allowing me to have some beers and some whiskey, and she monitored that. I put the fucking whiskey that she knew I had in my fucking toolbox where I'd been hiding it in a locked drawer.
It's just what we do.
It's just a habit.
Why I did that is still beyond me. And when I walked out there at 2:36 a.m. on April 12th, it was in my toolbox, and that's where I opened it, took my last drink. So, yeah, it's just odd. It's just stupid. That I think about stuff like that, but it's like... The fucking insanity of an alcoholic is just insane.
Yes.
To sit back and think about the stupid shit I did and said, and the way I used to try to hide my shit is just, God damn, the insanity is just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. To think that the shit I did to hide my alcohol.
Yeah.
And let me ask you a question.
Hit me.
3 years down the road, 3 and some change down the road. And having your family, as things are healing, what do you?
I'm struggling right now.
With what?
Shortly after doing my amends, I remember calling you, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about this with Mike, and we've talked about it multiple times, and I was having the hardest time of forgiving myself, right?
Which we do.
Right. And I'd said, how do I make amends to myself? Right. Because I'd made amends to my, I'd talked to, I never real properly did my amends to Maranda for a while. I did right before the wedding.
Yeah.
We did it on the phone.
I was watching everybody. I was watching him. I'm glad you said that, Doug, because
I remember.
didn't want to touch base on that.
No, I remember that.
I was watching him make amends with everybody else around us. He talked to, and I'm hearing them talk about it and like say that, we had these conversations. McKenna, I had this conversation with my dad, my mom. He was telling me like a random old coworker attempted to reach out to her to make amends, and I was just like, damn, all right, like, cool, everybody gets amends but my ass, or what, and I won't lie, it festered a lot of, like, resentment, because I was like...
I got some step work for that.
I was like, he's out here making amends to everybody, and I remember talking to Eric about it, I'm like, am I not owed that? Like, am I not deserving of that? And again, I'm my hardest critic, and I was just like, I put in a lot of work to get this man sober, and here I am, like, waiting for, like, a, hey, sorry, like, and...
Something.
So talk to me.
Something.
Yeah, So my daughter's two very, very different personalities.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Heart to heart, more connection with Miranda. You know, McKenna, her and I can be fucking extremely blunt with each other. Right. I know that Miranda is so much like me that she is going to harbor some of this, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. McKenna, I could just say, hey, I fucked up, you know, this is what, you know, and have my, I mean, it's fucking out there with McKenna. Miranda, it's not, it's just, it's so much more of a connection in the heart of, I know that she's going to dwell on it after the conversations because that's who we are. That's what her and I do. With McKenna, I could just say it and it's the fuck out the window, right? She's good. Miranda is going to hang on to it, devour it. And I was trying to protect her. I was really trying to protect. Yes, I was trying to protect that because I didn't want her to feel like any of this was her fault. And it wasn't. It was me. All me. Things said, things did. It was never anybody's fault except for me putting that shit in my body and getting to a point where it was, my body became dependent on it. And at that point, the depression hit hard, and I went into a hole that I wouldn't want my worst enemy in.
How are you guys today?
We're good. Yeah. I think
getting better.
Yeah. I think today.
Does this help?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think it's just not something that we've just touched on. I think just life has continued to keep moving. And, you know, I personally, like you said, I don't like to go back. I don't like to sit there. Because I will sit there and I will put myself back into those feelings that I had at that time. And I'll put myself in a hole for the next 2 weeks.
My daughter's the same way.
I have to fight out of it.
Yep.
Fight like a dog to get out of it.
Same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you know this about me, Rob, but in 2017, I was trying to put Kane down for a nap and went into a grand mal seizure. That set off one of like 80 seizures in 5 days.
I'll let my sister tell you about her. She is epileptic.
I'm not epileptic.
I know, but I know what you're talking about.
So
I got to slap her one time.
Yeah, and they were like, they could not figure. I was in the ICU. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and they were just like, the only thing that they could think was like it was just stress that had manifested, and that's how it had released itself. Was through
it's got to come out some way.
Yeah, and. You know, and so for me, my biggest thing is I obviously hold on to that so heavy that it turns physical. And I
got some step work for you.
Okay. You know what? My dad tells me all the time, I really think you need to walk your steps. I think you need to walk the steps. And I'm like, for what? Like, I'm not an alcoholic. And he's
we say this all the time.
Wouldn't hurt my grandmother.
There you go.
Yeah.
And she's dead.
She's dead. She would help her immensely. But I've taken people through steps that are not alcoholic, and they get talk to Brad's wife, talk to my wife, Doug, Michelle. I mean, there's just a little bit that they've done.
Yeah,
it just gives you a different perspective, a different avenue to get to God.
Yeah,
and to let shit go because it's not paying rent. Kick it out.
And I've done a lot of work on myself, and I've done a lot to get me where I am now, and I'm very happy with where I'm at in life, and I'm very proud of where I'm at in life. I've gotten myself, not me, I take that back, God, and my relationship with God, and especially since my dad got sober, I will say that is the biggest thing that myself has gotten from my dad getting sober, was it really catapulted my relationship with God, and it was... I know that this is an easy place for me to find myself in. And I know, alcoholism, addiction, it can be genetic. And I know that...
Even if the alcohol doesn't show up, a lot of the isms.
Yeah. Yep. And I know that, it's something that I have to work on. And I know that the only person that's going to get me through that is God and my relationship with God. And it is super important for me and my husband that we put God at the center of our home. And we just, I don't want to just sound like somebody that's just talking. I want to talk the walk. I want to talk the talk. I want to walk the walk. I want to be about it, that it just emanates off of me and touches other people around me and just say, hey, I want some of that. Like, and it's so crazy to me that sometimes we'll hear all the time, like, oh, you're a lot nicer now than you were in high school. I was like, I didn't know I was rude in high school. Like, I've always thought I was the same person. But
is that something?
Yes, as Eric and I have grown in this business and he's brought more people into our fold, and, you know, it's old people that we used to know, and they're like, you're a lot different. And I'm like, maybe that's just this new light.
It's God. It's definitely God.
It's God. It's God shining through me. And nothing gives me more joy than when Eric and I are sitting down reading our Bibles in the morning, and we've made it a habit that, you know, we try to go through the same chapter at a time, and we'll drink our coffee and then we'll discuss it. But then our kids get up and they grab their Bibles and Kane comes out and starts, you know, opening up his own chapter, and Claire's singing worship music in the back, and the baby is singing too. She doesn't know what she's singing, but she's singing. And that has filled me with more light and more hope than anything could have ever. And that, you know, a lot of that propelling that was my dad getting sober. So maybe my dad not taking those steps, I know we would be where we're at now, but maybe not at this time period.
I'd have been dead.
Yeah.
No, that's a true fact.
That's what you can tell. I mean, you always tell when you hear the story.
Yeah.
For all of us, there's a certain,
you know,
as it comes to a close.
Yeah.
You know, there's, I think, two things that, you know, when Maranda talks about, you know, well, just Katie that drive home for Katie, that just the thought of that.
And you know what's funny, Dad? I had a conversation with her earlier today because I was just trying to get timeline, and I honestly think she had forgotten about it because I brought it back up, and she was like,
"Oh, she probably blocked that."
Her face was like,
"Our wives block all kinds of stuff."
Yeah, her face was like,
and they don't want to relive that shit.
No,
but it's not about us.
I don't know. You know, it's healing for me, and you know,
what do you think, Maranda? Is this good for you?
Oh God, yeah. And I think that's why, not that I was stressed about it, but when I had the conversation with Rob the other day, I had to call Rob. I was like, poor guy. I was like, can you talk to me right now? He's like, no. He's like, I'll call you in a little bit. I'm working. And then we were playing phone tag because I was seeing some patients. And when I finally got back to him, I'm like, listen, I know this is a conversation that I need to have, but I want to do it so respectfully, not only respectfully to my dad, but respectful to my husband and what we've been through, and that.
And you handled it beautifully.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I just love, you two are the most important men in my life, and God, obviously God, Eric, and Larry are the most important people in my life, and I just always want to pay you guys the most respect, and that's why I was asking Rob, like, please guide me on doing this, but make it so it doesn't seem like a therapy session, but that we.
But it is kind
of. No, it is.
It's therapy. It's therapeutic, but you handle it perfectly.
You know, and I said this. I said this earlier in very beginning in the video that you and I did that I'm going to be posting here pretty soon. That it's just God works through this. Rob and I had talked about doing these podcasts, having my daughters on, and then the daughters were like, we can't do it together, you know, and then
which was great,
which was probably the best. And then, you know, Katie's working, you know, she's going to make it. She's struggling with it a little bit too. You know, there's a lot. And then, you know, it's just, I don't even know where the fuck I was going just now. I knew that this was going to be very healing. And when I spoke to, you know, it came up again here just a few days ago prior to this, that, you know, that I felt guilty about this. And I'm like, for God's sakes, no, please. And then the thought of the shit I did making the people that I love feel guilty about what I was going through. I didn't want that.
Thinking that they had something. They think that what could we have done? Did we cause this? Did we bring this? Yeah.
They're at fault that they're at fault for my alcoholism. And I'm like, fuck, no. You know, God damn it, I didn't want that. I don't want that.
But we caused it.
We did. And I hadn't heard that until recently, right? Till we started doing these podcasts.
Right.
After McKenna's, holy shit, the family conversations are completely different.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of other internal conversations and, that besides what's on here that have brought a bunch of shit out.
Which is good because from outside looking in, just from what I've listened to, the Shepherd family, especially the Fab Four, growing up, strong family, great. Then they had this, and now where it can go from here is going to be even better. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I can't even.
The core four, I'm sorry, the core four.
Core four. I can't even imagine a day without what I have right now. Right. What I have right now, and I
don't know any men that don't appreciate.
No,
like you. I mean, they do, but you appreciate it as much as any man can. What you have, what God's giving you back.
The days, just some days I'll be just driving, and the gratitude will just overwhelm me of what God has given back to me just by getting through those steps and turning all my care and all my wills over to the care of God. Just saying, take this. I don't. Take it, show me what you want me to do, guide me in how you want me to do this, guide me in how you want me to go and deal and work through with Miranda, guide me how you want me to work with Katie, guide me how and just these working amends that I'm.
And we still don't do it perfectly.
We don't. Yeah. I'm horrible at it.
There's still a lot of grace that needs to be
shoveled Miranda around. Said this earlier. I say some crazy ass shit and I don't mean it, but fuck, it comes into my head and it comes out my mouth. There's not a lot of filter up there, right?
But you're getting better.
No, I'm not. I mean, a little bit. But I mean, I don't, whatever. I'm going down another rabbit hole, but I mean, it's just like I said, going back to what, those being able to forgive yourself, right? That conversation still I was turning the corner right down here when I was having that conversation with Rob, and I'm like, I just got back from Roseville doing amends with my old boss, and I'm like, I don't know how to, and I just in my mind, I'm like, I fucking hate myself. I'm mad at myself for the shit. And Rob, I just remember Rob is like, Larry, you got to do a living amends for yourself, and I'm like, okay, it made sense. And working through this with McKenna, that now Miranda, it's just like. This is ongoing, those always ongoing. Layers. You just said the other day that something popped up that you hadn't thought of in a long time. It's just, does it hurt? Yep, it hurts. There was a guy speaking this morning, had 20 years of sobriety. He still gets emotional when he talks about some of the shit that he did to his wife. And it's like, yeah, if it's not emotional anymore, then that means maybe you don't remember it. Right. And, these guys make fun of me now because I cry on the drop of a hat, right? It doesn't take much.
That's not new. I just like to ask.
I've always been a sensitive, soft person. And I mean, I just turned to a fucking asshole, and going back to what I was, talking about, Katie, that if they would have known the amount of thought processes that were going through my head to keep myself from killing myself, things would have been a little bit different, because that I didn't even realize that until Miranda just said it, that I was going through it and they were thinking it, and that's scary to think about that I was that far, that far.
The barn on the turn on the way to Los Banos.
That I was so far that my inward thoughts were starting to come outward, that people could see that. That's scary, right?
I had a gun in my hand in early sobriety.
Wow. Brutal.
Painful. When you start feeling these things, for me, 1 a.m. to about 3 a.m. were.
See, I never had that, Rob.
I did.
I've heard you guys talk that.
Well, that's why I always tell my guys if the night terrors come on, whatever, when the emotions come on, because if you haven't felt, if you haven't allowed yourself to feel for years, and then for me, 1 to 3 a.m, that's when the shit that you didn't want to feel.
Yeah, and I don't. Would come calling. For me, I think because I wear my heart so far out on my sleeve that I didn't care who I dumped it out at the cash register at the store. I just would let it out. I never had that night terror because when I started dumping, it fucking came. I didn't care who was listening.
Jay had got it, but
Right.
it was still, it was just.
I never had those night
I just had
terrors.
hard times. It already surprised
I
me.
never.
That's why I tell my guys what I tell you.
Right.
I don't care what time of the night.
Yeah.
Call me. I didn't have that available to me.
Once again,
So
I didn't have that because when Chris broke me open, I fucking spewed.
No, I just with I did Christmas. Remember, my chicken died.
Right.
I had more shit in
right. No, I had.
Abigail was her name.
Abigail. Fuck.
Poor Abigail.
Anyways, I'm Miranda. I can't.
Thank you for this.
I can't.
That was awesome.
I can't unbreak what was broken. Right. I can tell you that never was your fault. Never. I know that because you
hurt others.
Because you are my child and because we think so much alike, I know that doesn't solve that, doesn't take that away, and only time will take that from you. We have to work through those things the way you and I think. We have to work through those things in our own way. But let it the fuck go. I promise you. Because it wasn't what spewed from my mouth. It was not anything you did. It was the pure weakness of me running to a bottle to solve something that wasn't going to go away with alcohol. Mm-hmm. It wasn't going to go away. It didn't go away with alcohol. It didn't. It went away because you and Eric turned your faith to God, and it subsided that tension that was here and inside the home. But at that point, my addiction was so far gone that Katie and I's, the tension in the house was never Katie or never the Miranda and Eric. The tension was more my alcohol than it was anything else. Oh yeah. Right. And never, ever was it anybody's fault. Anybody's but mine. Mine and mine alone. Nobody put that bottle in my mouth. Nobody. That was all me. I own that shit. Own it. And
do you love your daughter?
Oh my God.
Thank you. I think for me it was, again, because I will take anybody's burden and take it on. I got strong shoulders.
We do.
I think that
we do that.
For a long time it was, if I could hold that burden for you for a little while and be the catalyst that caused that, and you would come around and I would get that apology that I wanted and that I needed, right. And that I could hold on to it. And I think when you guys had suggested that I come to do the podcast, I was like, I'm going to have to let that go to be able to move forward, because it was never something that you brought up on your own. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was talking to Rob. I was like, listen, like, I waited a long damn time for that amends. And when I got it, like, it was not brought up. And, it was kind of more like, hey, we got to do this before the wedding so I can get it off my chest so I can be clear of mind at the wedding. And I was like, oh, okay, ready.
Shoot.
And I was like this. That's it. Like, where was
motherfucker?
And so I remember calling Eric after and being like, he didn't apologize for blaming me, like blaming us for his addiction. And when I was talking to Rob about it, Rob was like, Miranda, I don't think he remembers. I don't. It
was on the step work. I know he does it because it was in the step work. And Larry holds nothing back.
No.
Yeah.
So then I just wish, like I told you, being molested didn't come up for me. I mean, we bury some shit so deep, or don't even remember because we're fucking drunk.
Yeah.
We're just
you
drunk.
Just don't. That is such a hurtful.
Yeah.
That is such a hurtful thing to say. There is no way that this guy would ever lay that kind of burden on my daughters or my wife. Would I ever lay that burden on you guys? Ever? That's just not.
It's a heavy one to carry.
That is not something for you guys to carry. That's me. Right. I'm the one that picked that bottle up. I'm the one that put that shit in my body. I'm the one that became dependent on alcohol. Me.
But until that ownership's taken, which at that time it wasn't, the family that loves us carries it for us.
Oh yeah.
Because of that love.
Right.
And that, even though it wasn't theirs to carry.
Right.
Yeah.
So
good times,
I can't go back and I can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. I can't hate myself for it. I can't be mad about it. I turn it over. That's all I can do is turn that over. And I will continue to turn that stuff over when it pops up. Your mom and I have a lot of conversations that still happen. And I have to stop and go, wow. Some of the stuff that her and I talk about is just to this day, I still, and you know what?
But the good thing about it is we can have this, and because you're sober. Yeah. Grandbabies. I mean, the gratitude comes right back. Yeah, that happened. It sucks. Let's have it. Yeah. But look where we are now. But look what God has done now and continues to do.
1,000%.
Yep. This is where, so funny you say that. My boss has been giving me shit for saying 1,000%.
Well, you guys, both daughters say it all the time.
And it's just, so yeah, the one of my daughters that I've said this since I got sober, you've heard me say this. The one I worry about the most of this fucking disease going downhill.
Or just the isms.
Just the isms is my Maranda. Mm-hmm. Because she is just so much like me that we hold it, we carry it, we fucking blame ourselves. We just internalize every fucking thing. And the shitty committee between our ears is just, they don't make sense. And it's all our fault. It's all our fault. It's what we did. And the fear of losing something that means so much to us scares the shit out of us that we fight even harder to keep it. And it's miserable. It's fucking miserable. And the steps allowed me to let that the fuck go.
Well, it gives us tools when it comes of how to let more go when it comes up on us and how to deal with these things.
And they crop
I got steps
up.
For you.
Jesus Christ.
You know what's helped me a lot with that is I was reading in the Bible when Jesus did the 40 days, his fast of 40 days, and the devil was tempting him so heavy. And he said, "Get behind me, devil."
Yep.
Get behind me.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times in a day that I not only minister to myself, but minister to my sister-in-laws or other people that I talk to who are really struggling with self-doubt or imposter syndrome or, negativity towards themselves. I let them know too that, and I tell myself on the regular, these negative feelings that you have and this negative self-talk, that is not from God.
Nope.
That is from
ever
the devil. And that is from, when you allow that into your head and you allow that into your heart, you have to, I will literally be driving and be like, "Get behind me, devil." Because it is so, this is so not for me that I know that all these positive things that are happening in my life, that are happening in my family's life, that are happening in my kids, that
it's pissing somebody off. And he does not want us to be happy.
He comes harder.
He comes so much harder. And
I had you and I want you back.
Right. Yes. And it's like, "Good sir, please get behind me. I don't have the time for this today. I got a lot of things to do." So, and for me, that has been so unbelievably powerful and just powerful for my mind too. Like,
you're doing good, kid.
Eradicate it.
That, right, she's saying right there is our serenity prayer.
Yeah.
God grant me.
No, she's doing good.
Yep. No,
but if you ever want to go deeper.
Oh my God.
Got some steps. She's doing good, but you're doing good. I love it.
All right, sis. I fucking love you more than I can even explain, say, show. My heart for both my girls. Hey,
let me ask you a question because I'm not there yet.
Uh-huh.
My kids, I get 20, 23. Right. No families yet, no marriages. What does it feel like? Because the goal of a parent, as you know, to see your kids grow and, get to a certain point, have family, and be stable, great human beings. And you've got two stable, great children,
I
which
think
does
the
not
joy,
come by, you're out. They don't happen by accident.
No, and I think one of my greatest joys in life is my two son-in-laws.
Well, yeah, you've said that. Yeah. Well, talk to me about that. What do you mean?
Because the joy that I know that my daughters, Katie and I raised them to have very strong men around them, right? Eric and Pat are the two most incredible men I couldn't have handpicked them better. Eric is a huge supporter of Maranda. Patrick is a huge supporter of McKenna. They cling to each other. They accentuate each other. They just everything. They're just perfect together. And I just, as a father and as a mother, you can't, till it happens to you and you see it and you can appreciate it. Eric is by far a hero of mine. Just to see what he's gone through, to watch Pat go through what he's gone through to get to where they're at. It's so yeah, my greatest joys in life are those two men for taking care of my ladies, and that you couldn't have asked for two better men than those two guys, right? They're amazing. And yeah, and it's like I said, it's the greatest joy in my life to go, my girls are going to be okay. Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. When hopefully I get to that spot,
my girls are going to be okay.
I know my kids are going to be okay, but
right.
I'm just not there yet. You're just further down the road with me with that. What a gift.
And it's just, Eric, to watch him with my girls and to watch him with my grandson and just to watch him be the man he is just, you couldn't have drawn on a fucking postcard a man better than him. Right. And it's just, but
it takes hard times to build strong men.
God. What we've all gone through as a family, so
that's just, why these times are where you're supposed to enjoy.
Lord, yeah.
You're supposed to enjoy these.
I think it's really important too, especially, we live in a generation now where it's like, be a strong female, be a strong woman. Like, no, I will happily be subservient to my husband. My husband is the head of our household. My husband will never lead us astray. And if he leads us astray, then I know that he is going to find us a solution to get out of it. And if he says this is the direction in which we are going to go, I'm going to trust and believe that we're going to be 1,000% okay on the other side, because our faith in God, and God would never lead him astray. And I will... If that man wants to open a jiu-jitsu academy,
to watch these two knuckleheads, to watch them make the decisions they've made over the last 4 years or 3 years, as a father to sit back and go and cringe to watch them do it, but know they're walking by the faith of God. It's like, okay, and they've done just incredible. It's just, and I can't wait to watch. Because Pat and McKenna, they're getting ready to start their marriage together. I can't wait to watch that. Miranda's done with having kids, and now I tell Pat and McKenna, all right, motherfuckers, get going. I want more, So anyways, yeah. Miranda, I love you. I love you more, like I said. And if you want to reach out to Miranda, you want to talk, Recovery Unfiltered podcast at gmail.com. And Miranda was the one that made me change that from.
Yeah, she did. All the changes she's made have been good. Now we got to get the toilet and the damn shit.
Oh my God, please take those
you sit on the toilet, don't you?
Sounds out, please.
My wife, not you.
My goodness.
Even though they're true, yes, they are, but it was time to, everything has its time, and
we are coming up on it, brother.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
I got it on video and tape that Rob has agreed to come back and do another year with me. First year is almost done, and I asked him to marry me for one more year, and he's agreed to it.
I can't go beyond that. I can't make any promises.
I made him sign one more year contract. So, anyways, baby, I love you. We're gonna jump on out of here. Love you guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you learned something today that will help you.
If you did not, come back next week and we'll try again.
If you like what we heard, give us a 5-star review. If you don't like what you heard, kiss my... You can't say that, can you? Anyway, if you don't like what you heard, go ahead and tell us that too. We'll see what we can improve. We probably won't change nothing, but do it anyway.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Come back next week and hopefully something will be different and something will sink in. Take care.
This has been Recovery Unfiltered.